Hello, guys. I know it's been a while since I did my YouTube. It's been like 2 months or 3 months, and I'm so sorry. Things just piled up, and I completely blanked that I had a YouTube channel. Today, I'm here to talk to you guys about The White Lotus Season 3. If you guys have been following my TikTok, you know that I've been posting my White Lotus theories, and people seem to really like them. So please subscribe to my TikTok as well, not just my YouTube. And if you're here from TikTok, you probably know that one of the videos that got like a lot of people watching it and commenting about it was my theory that Saxon is meant to mirror or represent the Buddha. So I'm here to do a deep dive into the entire White Lotus season 3 and do theories about all the characters. I actually have a notebook, okay? I brought my big ass notebook so that you guys could see all my notes on all these characters, and we're gonna go and do a deep dive into all of them, okay? So stick around, um, and yeah, continue watching. So the way I'm going to break this down for the White Lotus season 3 is I want to talk about each of the different groups. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about my overall thesis about the White Lotus season 3 specifically. What is Mike White trying to tell us about enlightenment, about Thailand, about religion, about the way the West and the East meet in these issues, and how that's sort of satirical as he always does in The White Lotus, right? So I did a little bit of research, and my overall thesis is this season of the White Lotus is meant to mirror what in Buddhism they call the middle way. So, the middle way, how can I explain this? The middle way is not too far, as it were, into being like sensual and indulgence and all that stuff, right? Like, don't be too materialistic, right? But at the same time, don't be too idealistic, right? Like, don't become so ascetic and so religious that you forget about the material world, right? So the middle way in Buddhism is kind of like, think of it like the golden rule, right? Like in different religions, in Aristotle and all these things, right? Like the middle rule is don't fly too far up to the sun, and also don't fly too low. Like you have to walk the middle path. And so that is the way in Buddhism that you reach what they call nirvana, right? Like you reach nirvana by following the middle path, and there's this all these other religious themes of like the eightfold and the fourfold within the middle path, but I'm not going to go into that. So my thesis is, in a nutshell, each group is supposed to sort of mirror that complication, right? So this is how I've broken down the groups. There's the rat lifts. So I'm looking at my notebook, by the way. So there's the rat lifts. So we're gonna talk about the rat lift family, who is too indulgent and sensual, and who is being too religious. We're gonna talk about the cougars. I call them the cougars. That's the girlfriend group, like Jacqueline, Kate, and Lori. Then we're going to talk about Rick and Chelsea and sort of what they represent. And then we're going to talk about Mook and Guy Talk. And then we're going to talk about Belinda and Hassan and Greg slash Gary. Okay, let's get into it. So our first person we're going to talk about is the Ratlifts. What can we say about the Ratlifts that has not already been said? This is one of the most iconic families on television. I truly think so. I'm thinking back even to season 1 of The White Lotus when we had the Mossbacher family, but I really think this family for me takes the cake in being such an interesting White Lotus family. And there's all that other stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. So let's start with Tim Ratliff. Tim Ratliff is the patriarch of the family, right? He earns all the money. He comes from this big North Carolina political and financial family, and he's losing their money in an embezzlement scam, right? Basically. I think Tim is supposed to represent someone who was too indulgent, too financial, too interested in material things and in success and in money, and then slowly losing all of that, and his ego cannot handle it. So in the middle path, in the middle way that I'm trying to tell you guys from Buddhism, right? Tim is on this side. He's too sensual, he's too indulgent, and I think this season is all about him coming back to the middle path, right? He is, he had that, I think episode, was it 5 or 6, where we saw him praying to God, right? We see him praying to God. He's becoming more spiritual, but he's almost now veering too far in the other side. You know what I mean? He's like, and this taps into all that suicidal stuff, right? Like, Tim is going too far in the other side. He feels that now that he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any success, he's veering too far into the idealistic tent and closer to like some other family members who we'll get to, like Piper. So I think Tim is just meant to remind us of the dangers of too much sensualism and not to give in to that sort of thing. Okay, let's turn to my favorite character this season, Saxon Ratliff. Saxon is such an interesting character, I think, right? Like, when we first meet Saxon, he is this douchey, frat boy persona, and the way he talks about women, were like, what the hell is wrong with you, Saxon, right? But after the night of decadence on the boat at the full moon party, we are seeing Saxon slowly again come back to the middle path. And I think that's actually such an interesting insight, because in when you read up on Siddhartha, like the Buddha, he's this pampered prince, right? The Buddha is a pampered prince who becomes sort of becomes the Buddha, right? Like, he finds the middle way and then he becomes the Buddha, and he becomes this wandering religious sort of person, right? And I think Saxon is meant to sort of be our mirror into the Buddha, right? Like, here he is, starts out as this pampered prince he's just basically living off his dad's money and living off his dad's connections. And I mean, so did his dad. So I mean, no shame in that, right? But then after the night of decadence, after the night of celebration, and sort of what happened with Lachlan, we see Saxon slowly become more chill, right? Like in episode 7, we see him meditating with Chloe. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's suddenly changed and he's become this great person, but we see Saxon almost become more chill. Like, he actually takes Chloe's books. Like, I'm not saying he's not trying to get with Chloe. I mean, why am I saying Chloe? I mean Chelsea. He's not trying to get with Chelsea, but we just see him in a much more contemplative mood, right? The fact that he says no to Greg and Chloe. So I think that's just interesting, and I think he's meant to sort of be this person who, if my prediction is right, will become the one who stays behind and actually, or if he doesn't stay behind, he's actually gonna take these lessons about the middle way and the meditation and all this stuff, and he's actually going to incorporate it into his life, if I'm not mistaken. Now, with those two, then there's the other side of the family, right? There's Piper. Piper comes in and she's this ascetic, right? Like, Saxon describes her and he says, like, she shrinks away from life, right? Like, she doesn't want life. She's always backing down from life and from what she wants. And he tells Lachlan, like, life is for living. Like, basically you have to live your life. But Piper is too idealistic, right? She's too idealistic. She's like, I'm going to go to the monastery and I'm going to do all this stuff. And then we slowly see her, like in episode 7 especially, she slowly becomes more, she looks around and then she's like, she sees the water dripping from the ceiling and she's like, oh, I'm actually not meant to live this life. And I think Piper is meant to symbolize, in a way, coming back to the middle path. Like, don't forget about material, don't forget about, like, just the sensual things in life and the good stuff in life. And I think that's Piper's, what she's meant to sort of symbolize, right? Like, come back to the middle path. Like, don't be too idealistic. Come back to the middle path. So, who do we have? Lachlan Radcliffe. This person is so sneaky. Like, I'm having such a hard time pinning down Lachlan Radcliffe, and I think it's just the strength of Sam Nivola's performance. Lachlan, I think, is meant to, he doesn't know where to be, right? Like, with Saxon at the beginning, um he takes Saxon's advice too far, right? But then in episode 7 we see him with Piper being like, "Oh, I'm gonna go and follow you into the monastery," and it's like, no, 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 like, figure out who you are. And I think that's another theme of this season, of like, figure out who you are and what's your identity. Like, don't craft it, and don't, implant it into other people's dreams and other people's ideas about who you are. And I think it's, again, trying to get back to the middle path. Like, don't, you know you have to have a balance, and I think that's what they're trying to do. Victoria Ratliff, played by the amazing Paco Posey, I mean, she has the best lines of the show. It's just such a scene stealer of a performance. And I think Victoria Ratliff is interesting, right? At the beginning, she's basically drugged out, right? She's basically just completely out of it. She can't remember what country they are in. And I mean, she doesn't really remember even up to now. But she still has this sort of indulgence in her drugs. But then once she's weaning off of the lorazepam, we see her sort of, she has that time when she sort of starts praying for Piper and being like, "Piper, I want her to have a horrible time at the monastery." I think she's a comedic character, right? But I think she still has something interesting to tell us about, hey, what does life look like once you stop indulging in drugs and all that stuff, and like, how do you find a middle path? And I really do think this theme can be seen in all the different characters. Okay, let's go to our second characters, the Cougars. The Cougars are so interesting, right? Because we meet them and it's basically these three women who basically kind of look interchangeable, right? They all have the long blonde hair. I mean, not, it's not really long, but they have the same shade of blonde, right? They all kind of look alike. They're not that different in height, except Kate is a little bit taller, but they're all kind of similar in their own way and different in their own way. And I think you can still find this theme playing out, right? We have Jacqueline. Jacqueline is an actress and she's so concerned with male validation, right? Like, she thrives off male validation. And you could see her, in that scene in episode 5, at the full moon party, we see her sort of do do a thing. Like, she looks at these younger women looking at her, and then she grabs onto Valentin and his friends, and she's sort of, grinding on them. And then you're like, oh, she's sort of, she wants more validation. She's such a sensual being. And when her husband is ignoring her, she hooks up with Valentine. And I think that's meant to be a cautionary tale, right? Like, don't be Jacqueline, you know and Jacqueline, I think, hasn't found her way to the middle path and the middle way. She's too this side. And then we have Kate. Kate is so interesting because at first you're like, okay, she's kind of just there. She's a peacemaker. She doesn't really get involved in the drama. And then we have that episode, I think it's episode 3 or episode 4, where we learn that Kate and her husband, like, they're gossiping about her, and they basically say her husband, like, she just grafts her identity and her politics, especially, onto whoever's around her. And I think Kate is a warning against that sort of Piper ascetic ideal. Like, don't be too idealistic, too held back. You know, when it's the full moon party, right? Like she doesn't drink, unlike Kate and Laurie, right? Like she doesn't drink. She sort of holds herself back, and she's like, "I'm good. I'm not gonna do anything fun." And it's like, well, don't do that, right? Like have a drink, like let down, like loosen up. And I think it's interesting. Like I think Kate and uh Jacqueline are meant to be cautionary tales, and I think Lori starts off the season a little bit down on her luck, right? Like she didn't get her promotion, her daughter is being horrible and throwing punches and all this stuff, and then it's like, um, she kind of gains her confidence, right? Like by episode 7, she goes to the thing on her own. She goes to the Muay Thai fight on her own, and I think Lori is again finding her way to the middle path, right? Like she's not so held back like Kate. She's gonna speak her mind. Like she was like, hey, I wanna speak my mind. But she's not as indulgent as Jacqueline. Like she's not basically gonna hook up with Valentine, and she's not so desperate for male validation. And I think she's the one who's sort of going to find enlightenment. And I think again it ties back to the theme song, like finding enlightenment. So that's my thoughts on the Cougars. Okay, now let's go to our third basic pairing. We have Rick and Chelsea. I don't even know what to think of Rick and Chelsea. I think they still fit, but and you can kind of see the split, right? Like Rick is very much like, oh, he's dreaming about this violence, and he's like, I'm going to go and find vengeance for my father, and he's holding on to this thing so bad. But then you have Chelsea who's like, no, I'm gonna do my meditation, and Rick is my soulmate, and it's like you have to find your way to the middle path. And I think both of them, in a weird way, are being led to that. Like Rick, by being able to let go of what he thinks he needs and the revenge he thinks he needs, he's able to sort of see the beauty in I don't know why I keep calling her Chloe, in Chelsea, right? Whereas Chelsea, by Rick ignoring her and sort of acting like she doesn't exist and sort of being a douche to her, and all this attention from Saxon, and all this sort of mentoring by Chloe, her friend, I think she's able to indulge a lot more. She's able to loosen up a lot more. Like we really see her loosen up a little bit in the series, and I think both of them are going to come back to the middle path, right? Like don't be like Rick, who's like, I'm gonna be a douche and I'm not gonna listen to anyone. I'm gonna ignore my girlfriend's phone calls. But don't be Chelsea, being like, I'm not gonna do anything fun because basically my boyfriend's not here, right? Okay. Actually, by the way, a little bit, I really like Saxon and Chelsea as a pairing. I hope they get together before the ending. Okay, that's just my one too. I like Saxon and Chelsea. I don't, I like Rick and Chelsea. I'm just like annoyed by them sometimes. I'm just like, okay. Then our fourth pairing, we have Mook and Guy Talk. Let's focus on Guy Talk because we haven't got a lot about Mook, right? Guy Talk starts off being very sort of held back, right? He's very shy, he's not as ambitious, and you see this thing sort of enter into him, right? Like he when the robbery comes in, right, and he's sort of beaten down, Mook is like, no, Guy Talk, you have to be strong, right? If we go back to that conversation that um go back to that conversation that Mook has with Guy Talk at in episode 7, right? And she's like fighting is a part of life. Like you can't shrink away from that, and you have to take more responsibility. And I think maybe there's a way to take that where you think like, oh, Mook is pushing Guy Talk too far, right? And it's like there is a little bit of that, right? But I think it's all about, again, that middle path. You can't go too far. You can't be so like frozen, and not standing up to the robbers, but you also can't be like just gonna run into the head of danger. Like you have to be in the middle. And I really think Guy Talk is starting to see that, right? Like he's like, I have to be brave and I have to do my job. Basically, he's a horrible security guard, by the way. He's like, I have to do my job, but I also have this part of me that's like softer, like always non-violence, right? Like as they say in episode 7, and it's like always non-violence, like but it's like that thing. It's like don't be like I'm not gonna do anything, but don't be like I'm just gonna do whatever I want. You have to be firm, you know. Don't go too far in either direction. And I think Guy Talk is the one who has sort of become that. I don't know what's gonna happen to him in the finale. I think he's gonna get the girl. I think it's a very beautiful story. He gets the girl by being strong, but not being douchey like Valentin and whatever and those guys. But don't be soft. Like you have to be in the middle. So I think that's Guy Talk's arc. Just learning how to be in his middle element. Let's talk a little bit about Belinda and her son Zion. And I think Belinda is interesting, right? Like, I keep thinking about episode 7. Episode 7 is such a beautiful episode because we get all these characters and we really figure out who they are, in a way. So, Belinda, she turns down the money from Greg, right? She's like, I don't want to be an accomplice. And then she's too idealistic, right? And her son Zion is like, Mom, like take the money, right? Like just take the money. And it's I think Belinda is interesting because she already might be on the middle path because I mean she did have her fling with that Thai guy, that Thai masseuse. So maybe she's not to this. I think Belinda actually might be the character who is maybe exemplary in being in the middle path. She's firm, she has her fun, but she's also like has her character and has her morality and that she stands firm in it. So maybe Belinda is in the middle path, but in my opinion, she should just take the money. Belinda, take the money, okay? Take the money, okay? Uh, yeah, but I think this makes sense overall, right? Like, just think about it. Like, we see this character struggling between basically. There's some of them who are too like held back. I think Lachlan when he was first starting on, Piper when she as she still is doing with her whole I'm gonna lock myself away in a monastery, Saxon when he was first starting out, and Tim, and I think they're all kind of trying to move towards the middle path, right? The middle way, and this teaching from Buddhism of like be in the middle, and like you see that with Kate and Laurie and Jacqueline, and Laurie is trying to figure out how do I be in the middle. You see that with Rick and Chelsea, they're fighting their demons either too idealistically or too materialistically, and they're coming to the middle path. Um, yeah, so that's sort of my thesis about the White Lotus. I'm gonna make a little bit of a prediction. I think Lachlan is a goner. I think so, right? Like Lachlan, yeah, I think it has to be Lachlan. I think it will be tragic, but maybe that's too clean. That's maybe too clean of a simple like death. But yeah, tell me what you guys think about the White Lotus season 3, and look forward to seeing you guys in my next video.